I'm Mel,
And I'm Andrea.
and we've been asking ourselves, WTF? Where's the fun?
So, welcome to our podcast for heart-led business leaders, entrepreneurs, and CEOs ready for more. More impact, more wealth, more joy, and more magic, all while having even more fun than ever before.
As co-founders of FunX, we believe that life and business is way more fulfilling when you're following the fun.
So we're flipping the script on success, giving you permission to create from a whole new paradigm where you can have a lasting impact while nurturing your well-being and having a freaking blast along the way.
So join us each week for engaging solo episodes
and real conversations with experts who are embodying this new paradigm of leadership, spiritual wealth, business growth, and of course, fun.
If you're ready to reignite your spark, make bold moves, and lead from a whole new energy,
Let's jump in and have some fun.
we just recorded an amazing podcast with Alex Street.
Mel literally stopped and grabbed a pen and paper and started making notes. I don't think I've ever seen her do this in a podcast, so you're not going to want to miss this. Alex, we have worked with personally, professionally. He is amazing when it comes to taking your story and feeling confident and clear, bringing it out into the world. Alex believes you could inspire change with one clear story. And with his signature StoryArc Method and new book, StoryArc, Alex coaches international speakers, bestselling authors, millionaire founders, and hundreds of business owners around the world to stand out with their signature story and speak with confidence. He drinks a lot of coffee, watches a lot of Survivor, and plays a lot of board games while living in Ontario with his wife and 3 Gen Z kids. And the best part is he's just getting started.
Okay, welcome back to WTF. Where's the fun? I'm Mel,
And I'm Andrea.
and today we have the man himself, Alex Street.
What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up? It is so good to be here.
So good to have him.
Yeah. Okay.
And sometimes it's like, who's gonna say it first?
It's like usually we're both excited and just shout over each other about
Today was just an awkward stare at each other.
so welcome.
Welcome to WTF, where Alex watches Andrea and Mel stare at each other and figure out who's going to talk first. And then talks awkwardly.
Speechless, Alex. It's so funny because I feel like whenever we talk, we could go in so many different directions, in
Yeah.
so many, like, deep, light, all the places. But just before, what we were talking about, and we're like, let's stop the conversation so that we can hit record, because I think we're both playing in this space, but I think it's now more than ever, it's so needed. And it's all about having fun telling your story.
Yeah.
So what have you seen coming up with that? What does that even mean?
Oh, this is so good. I love just jumping right into it because we'll unpack where I come from and why this all matters and everything. But let's start with the goods, because I am literally, just before we hit record, I'm in DM conversations with clients and with people just asking me questions. And they are, it's like it's this struggle around what story do I tell? How do I talk about myself? Okay, I think that this is my main theme. This is my main message. But if it's not, or if that's too much, then I don't know what to do with that. And holy crap, if we're not having fun, if we're not enjoying talking about our life experiences, talking about what we bring, discovering our main message to the world, then why are we even in this effort? What are we even doing? You've just created a whole new monster that you're trying to feed around this idea of my message, my impact. And if there's one thing that I think that I can bring to the world, it is, let's enjoy this a bit more. Let's enjoy the process. Let's really find the beauty in where you've come from, who you are, and then how to deliver that to the world. Like, yeah, sure, we want to make it matter. We want to make it count. We want to make it hit with any given audience. Yes, there's strategy around that. But if it's so serious, if we're so caught up in, is this the right one or is this the right way to go? We're asking the wrong questions. And so if we're hanging out today saying, like, let's have fun telling our stories, it sounds like an easy thing. People are going to go, it's not that easy. I get it. And yet that is definitely the encouragement. I want you to walk away with this today feeling like it's just easier. It's lighter. It doesn't have to be so complicated and confusing to dig in and to share my story and where I come from, why I care.
And that's actually, like, truthfully, the journey that we've been on with you. Like,
Yeah.
when we
Yeah.
first met, I feel like I was so in my head. I had a talk, it was one of my first big ones, and
Yeah.
I'm like, 1, I don't know what I'm gonna share. I had, like, I didn't have clarity on the story that I wanted to tell, and I didn't have clarity on even what I was gonna share because I was trying to package all of my knowledge and wisdom from, like, 10 years of all the work that we've done, and you actually helped me to to clarify the story, and then what I think my growth opportunity was through that process, like, we came up with a talk, and the talk was awesome, like, we got such great feedback, and what I realized from it and I went back to you because then I got asked to speak on another stage, and I was like,
Mhm.
"Ooh, I didn't have fun telling my story."
Yeah.
And I told a story that didn't feel even good for me to share. It was like
Yeah.
I picked I don't wanna say I picked the wrong story, but I didn't pick the story that I'm gonna butcher this quote. I don't even know who it's from, but someone just shared it with us before this call, and it's like, basically, it's not asking, like, what I need to do or give to the world. It's like, what brings me alive?
Because the world needs
Mm.
more of that.
M The world needs more people that come alive.
There's who is it? Oh geez. Yep. I want to say it's Ignatius, but it's somebody Thomas of Aquinas said the glory of God is man fully alive. That might be what we're talking about here, but there's something about that when we show up fully alive, fully excited and enjoying what we're doing, that is when we actually are stepping into our main purpose and doing the thing that we are created to do. I don't know if that's what you were going with, but that's just sparks
Yeah,
for me as well. It's just
basically, it's like if we there's so much work that I think inner work that comes with being able to share your story,
Yeah.
have fun with the story, not take yourself so seriously, give yourself permission to really own it.
uh,
And you said like when we're asking better questions, it's like what is the questions that we're asking ourselves? And that's actually how you helped me go from being so unclear for w- where I wanted to go with my story to actually like we've really leaned into this message of fun because of you. Like you helped us to really hone that in and that is fun to talk about and
Well, what I think Alex really helped you do, because it was mostly you guys working together, and I was kind of like the outside giving an opinion here and there.
yeah, you were just sitting off camera, like just
Whether you wanted my whether you wanted my opinion or not, I was chiming in. Um, but like Annie had said, she got asked to speak on a stage. You helped craft this story,
yeah.
and she's just naturally gifted on stage. It's just a gift she has. And then she got asked to be on another stage. And she came back to you and was like, I think the first one I did so much from my head,
Mhm.
thinking this is what they need to hear.
Yeah.
This is what I have to deliver. And then she came back to you and she's like, it just didn't feel right. And then you guys kind of went into, well, what stories feel good to say? And what do you want to talk about? And what do you want them to take away with? And then I remember I was in the audience and the woman that was hosting this massive event was our client at the time. And she had seen the first talk. And she, in the middle of Annie's talk, she was way across the room. And she comes running over to me and she goes, she's a different person.
Come on.
Mhm.
And she was like, whatever she did, she goes, I can feel it. It's
Mhm.
so heart-centered, it's so different. She goes, "Not one person is not fully invested watching her." Like, her perspective was so fun.
'Cause she was at the first talk too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then she's sitting and the talk was different, but she's like, "That's a different person on stage right now than the first talk." Because and I remember sitting in the audience and going, holy fuck, she's meant to do this. Like, she just comes alive and so embodies what you guys built.
So all this to say, I believe so much in not only the work that you do, but like it has to be fun for you.
Yeah.
It has to be, and a different way to say that, I think is connected. Like, are you willing to bring your whole self,
Well, that was
whole heart, and really allow yourself to be seen? Like, I had to bring myself to it. I was terrified, but I was like, I'm in on this.
and you have to be willing to share stories that I think sometimes you need to be a bit vulnerable in your story, and that's
Yeah.
really what people connect with.
And that's the barrier, right? That barrier from head to heart. There's so much that we're opening up here around this concept of like have more fun telling your stories. Okay, let's break that down to what that is. And through this
Yeah.
experience, I think is so tangible to say it is about embodiment. It's not merely I have crafted a good speech. I wrote,
Mhm.
5,000 words on script. I typed it out. There is my speech. I will deliver this. It will be great. Like that's head. That's like what do people need here? How do I make this work with the theme is a little bit deeper. You start to get into like okay, connecting in that level. But if you don't embrace it. If it's not real, if it isn't, yeah, to that level of vulnerability, that's definitely the vulnerability there. That's the barrier that is probably keeping people from that head to the heart, from that, am I actually having fun with this? Am I embodying it? Because truly, go back to like 9-year-old you when you started to have less fun, when you started to
Mhm.
play less because you began to care what the cool kids thought of you. You began to care, okay, if I'm silly here, if I, for
Yeah.
the school talent show, if I actually sing, they're going to laugh at me. Something clicks there, which we're still dealing with today, which is, can you actually have fun when you're just on a podcast conversation? When you're just showing up
Mhm.
here? Uh, or are you so up in your head wondering what they're gonna think about you that
Yeah.
you're so reserved and calculated that
Yeah.
you're not bringing yourself to this?
Yeah.
Oh, baby. What are we, 10 minutes in? This is the goods.
Today's episode of WTF Where's the Fun is sponsored by The Fun Experience, a curated mastermind for established business owners, entrepreneurs, and CEOs ready for more. More magic, more joy, more wealth, and more fun than ever before. So if you're ready for a peer-to-peer mastermind that's helping you to embody more leadership, more impact, and make bold moves, The Fun Experience is where it's at.
I know, and I'm thinking, like, as you're speaking, and I was like, and even it's like, I think that this is the beauty of we're talking about telling your story, but I think what working with you helped me is to let go of the story that I was telling myself about my life, about myself, and it's like it really helps you to get clear on, but what is the actual truth in this journey? And I think that's why, um, maybe jumping into part of your process of the story arc coaching because or even the process that you bring people through because I think
Yeah.
it goes from, yeah, I'm telling myself this story about myself. When I'm 9 years old, I can't have fun to like, but what's the essence or the message behind that? So what's your process? How like let's dive in.
Oh, baby. Okay. I mean, there's a specific story that's showing up in my mind that will, I think, demonstrate this. But very simply, my process, I call this transformation story arc. This is what I bring to everybody everywhere, and it just bleeds into all my work and all my messaging and everything. And it's really simply that you have a three-part story that can be summarized in two words, which is ultimately your transformation. How you've gone from there to here, and when you clarify what those words are, you have a story to tell on any platform that you ever step on. Then you just get to fill in the details of that three-part story, that three act. Who I was, okay, then what happened to make me who I am from there to here. And you just play with that. I have one client say it's like a strand of Christmas lights, and you just get to exchange the Christmas lights at any
Cool.
given opportunity and like put in a different color here. And that's going to
Yeah.
be a different story talking about, when you had your first kid versus like when you got fired from your job, depending on the audience, just switch out the Christmas lights. But you already know, let's say where that light starts and ends every time. And that's really the value of this. So we can jump into that. We get really practical if we want to go there today. Um, that's the goods. That's how we craft the story. But there's something about even when I said the 9-year-old you, it's interesting that that showed up to me. But I go back to this 14-year-old me that I can think of, though I show up with confidence and clarity today and like, give me the mic, let's go, and we'll see where it goes. I'll come in prepared and I'll just work with the audience. Uh, I felt like that. I think when I was a kid, like it entered my life early. My mom threw me on stage when I was like 8 years old in this Cinderella pantomime, and I was wearing a Winnie the Pooh outfit. I had no business being in that show, but my mom was putting it together. So she's like, "Get up on stage, Alexander." And something clicked. I mean, I fell deeply in love with the lights and the oohs and the ahs and everything. I was like, this is where I need to be. So I like pursued that as much as I could. And then I remember 9 years or 19, grade 9, 14 years old, the school play. And I'm in the class, drama production and everything. And I was actually like playing one of the leads in the show, which was a big deal for a ninth grader to be in this whole school production. I had the second line in the show. I'm hiding behind, it was runaways. It was a bunch of teenagers that ran away from home and whatever. We get into mishaps. And I was hiding behind this like cardboard box on stage. Curtains open. There's just a box on stage. And then this girl walks out and says, like, Harry? I think that was my name. And so then I like come out from the box because that's where I've been sleeping, I guess. And I step up to the middle of the stage just behind her and I'm going to surprise her. And my line was, "Here I am," which I don't know how well written that is, but I say, but I remember so significantly. I said, "Here I am." My voice cracked because puberty decided to take center stage that day. And I, like, people in the audience started to laugh.
Oh.
And you talk about that moment of like, I was in this sweet spot of like opening night of the show, feeling the lead, and then they didn't respond how I wanted them to, how I expected them to respond. And I can almost see that it was like this confusion entered my life. It had entered a little bit before that for sure, but that was a significant way around this context where I felt
Yeah.
so confused around I'm enjoying this, I'm doing what I'm gifted at, but they're not responding how I think they should. Maybe I need to adjust. I need to shift who I am then. I need to talk deeper and put that on so that that doesn't happen again. And I became something that wasn't authentic to me for decades.
Yeah.
And there's something that happens there when you look at that life through that arc. Okay, I was really clear, then I got confused, and then somewhere along the way, I remember specifically having a conversation with my mom where she helped me see, like, it's not about you. It's always about the audience. Storytelling is about them transforming.
Yeah.
And something clicked where now I get to show up today with that mindset and go, yeah, you know what? Maybe my voice will crack, but I still got something good to say today. So let's get into it.
And I love that because I think, like, what you just said, it's not about you.
Yeah.
It's about the audience and what they get from it. And that almost gives, like, if someone's wanting to be on stage telling a story, it's like, it's not about you. It's about them and giving value to them, which takes pressure off of you.
Yep.
Yeah. And then that's where you can really have fun.
Well, I think so, because the work then is, are you convinced in your heart
Yeah.
that what you have is inherently valuable?
Yes.
That's the work. That's where most people are hanging out thinking, I'm not good enough to start with. So I have to put on a show. I have to put on a mask. I have to really try to impress them because I'm not even impressed by myself.
That don't
Right.
press a me, but
This
You, Shania.
this is good because I think, like, how do you captivate the audience? How you inspire? How do you create an experience? You have to be present. And if you're up in your head judging and being like, or not certain, or not like basically, yeah, you're right. Like you have to own it. Like you have to own it for yourself. And it's that presence that then brings them in. Because if I think we were just talking with
Mm.
a friend, she's a vocal basically she helps with your voice in many different ways. She was in the opera, she's worked with singers, she's basically helped people that out, and she's like, "I could do opera to Mozart, but I could do it 50%, like, I could just do it because 'cause I've trained myself to do it."
Yeah. Yeah.
And you could go and you could train yourself as that 14-year-old kid.
Yep.
The journey, though, I think, and I could be wrong, but is now you've embodied it. Like seeing you came to the mini flex and you did the like such an incredible, and it was even virtual, but incredible experience. And like how you show up is truly magnetic. But I think it's because you've went from at 14, it was still very much an idea. You hadn't like really embodied it
Yeah.
into your being.
yeah.
Well, something uh it's so good there. I love that. I love that connection to the opera. The person you can be a pro and show up and kind of bring, yeah, I like to say 70%, 80%
Yeah.
of you. I can pretend, up to that much. I could tell your story. I have it. I have it in a document somewhere that we worked on together. I could speak your speech on stage. And I would do pretty well. Like I could put on that character. I could pretend that I used to be a cop. I could put
Mhm.
that on and be that, and in all honesty, I would do well. It's an actor. That's the acting piece. I can put on a character. Give me a script and I'll do that.
Mhm.
But something would be missing until I can truly connect my story to what I'm speaking.
Yeah.
So because I haven't, so even in that situation, well, I haven't been a cop and I didn't, leave that job and I didn't buy a house and like just on a whim. I didn't decide let's have more fun. What if we, that isn't my story. But if I can connect, if I can look at that message and then go, okay, but what is true about me? Well, I did decide at some point to lighten up and
Mhm.
to show up with more fun, to truly embrace who I am as this person who is here to make the experience better for others. I did do that. So if I bring that belief to
Mhm.
this speech, it's going to be better than it was. And that's still, again, talking about like me reading your stuff. So then you take that and go, okay, well, what if I started with my own message? What if I started with something that is so deeply ingrained within me, that is about my journey with my beautiful mother, watching her go through her life and struggle? My God, I'm getting into it. Struggle to step into what she's gifted to do and feel like a trapped bird in a cage, not able to act while she's raising kids, and then somehow raise her own kid to come into this and then step back into this. When I get into that story, my friends, I feel it. You can tell
Mhm.
that.
Mhm.
I'm going to bring that.
Yeah.
But still, what I'm bringing there is ultimately this like emotional transformation where I see there's something that happened within me. And that's why I can tell any moment from my story with such passion and conviction because it is mine. And I see how it shifted me.
Mhm.
And there's going to be people in the audience that don't connect with it.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
for them.
Yeah.
Not for them. And that's a big release to I think, go through with. Probably to what you were saying earlier, Mel, about this idea that like it's first for you. It's not for the audience. Wait, no. Yeah, we said the opposite. We said it's not for you, it's for the audience, but there is something about this sense of, like, recognizing, like, yeah, you're helping them shift, but it has to be through some way that you've experienced that first.
Yeah.
And that's where we go. I often say it's first for you, and then, yes, it's
Yeah.
for those in the audience that need this.
Yeah. So good.
I don't know. I mean, what do we do with that? How does that then transfer into someone showing up for their business today? Somebody showing up with their speech as they write a speech today. Um, I think the question is, are you trying to give them something that you think they want?
Mhm.
Or are you creating something that is from within, so authentically from within you? Because 100 times out of 100, that's going to make more impact.
Yeah.
And I think one of your superpowers, and for us, this is what we needed, and I think most people do need this. It's the psychological safety to be able to go there and play in the story and be curious. I remember Brene Brown. So she wrote her books and she hated the process. She's just like, I'm in my head. I have these brilliant books and it's like, it's not fun for me.
Yeah.
And I knew for me, I was very similar. Like, I get in my head. And when I was going to write my talks, I was like, it's not, I don't want that. I want someone I can co create with. And that is one of your superpowers, is that you create a safe space. You make people feel psychologically safe to play, to not have to get it right, to be curious,
Mhm.
to be open, to like truly like, "Ooh, what about this? No, that's not it, but what about this?" And I think when it comes to like, so if someone's listening, they're like, "I want to bring my story out or I want to create," it's like tapping into what's the way that you create best and then finding that match. And I think that is one of like the beauties of having someone like you is you just accelerate that whole process
Yeah.
because it's safe.
It's, I think it comes back to that idea of play.
Mhm.
Like, put a bunch of Lego bricks in front of somebody and see what happens without the instruction book. Some people that just made you really like anxious right now listening to this, right? Is okay, go build something. Like, what? Where do I start? What do you want me to build?
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
do you mean? What do you how tall do you want it to be? Give me some parameters. And if I just said, let's just see. Let's okay. Then what happens if they feel stuck, then I get in there, I put my hands in there and I just start putting pieces together. Like, well, what if this was a car? Huh. I wonder what else do we need? Well, if there's a car, there's probably somewhere that they're going to. Like it's just playing with that. And no, actually, the car sucks. We're in space. Let's make a spaceship.
Mhm.
And it sounds like I'm talking to kids right now, but we know this is the adult experience as well. In fact, we have more barriers up than kids do when you just throw that in front of them. So what I like to think of is often, I'm an Enneagram 7. I just want to be in that play space. But what I've learned is don't put me on a beach and say, "Go for it. Go build something." I need a sandbox. I need that outline. I need that structure. I need some parameters to say you have this space,
Yeah.
but also don't tell me what to build. Don't be like, I need you to build a 3-tier sandcastle because I'm going to not do that. But if you give me the bucket, I might just go ahead and build a 3-tier sandcastle on my own. And I think that's where a lot of people struggle is they need that sandbox. They need that structure to begin with. Instead of just saying, go find your story, feels like you're on a beach. But if we say, well, here's your structure, I wonder what we can build within this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's for me where it gets really fun. And I think that's kind of what it sounds like you're saying is like, yeah, and then we just get to co-create and play together. And as long as I don't take over, um, that's isn't that what good coaching is
Yeah.
helping you see what do
Yeah.
you want to build? What do you have in there?
Mhm.
What's okay, wait, you said this. What it you've said that before. You said fun. You said you guys sat down in a living room and
Mhm.
said, what if we have more fun? Didn't that come up earlier in your story? Didn't that show up early? That's where that becomes a thread that then
Yeah.
became, as I sit here today and see WTF on the wall behind you, your brand around fun.
And I think that's the power of having someone outside of you. Like, we truly believe we're not meant to do life and business alone. We're all in this
Yeah.
together. We're all here to help each other. And that's the power of having someone who's not in your business, who doesn't know your stories, that you can openly and freely tell them things like you, and then they can put the dots together and be like, "Oh, I'm seeing a theme here."
Well,
How's that feel for you?
I think that's brilliant. And that's kind of going back to what I didn't finish with Brene Brown is that she hated the first part. So she's like, I'm going to invite a whole bunch of people, like people she trusted, to go to a cottage or a cabin with her. And then she just created as she spoke because she felt safe and trusted. And then they would
Wow.
reflect back to her and write the stories down. And
Co-creation.
that's how she created her next books. But the process was fun for her.
Yeah.
And I think that's the point. It's like,
Mm,
could you do a story on your own? Sure.
yeah.
Is it gonna be enjoyable for you? Is it gonna invoke that heart because you did it in a way that you weren't in your head? You felt safe enough to do it from your heart, but you also had someone that was capturing it, reflecting it back to you, and then, like, pulling out the things that actually matter.
There's is it Brene Brown that talks about shitty first drafts? Is that her whole thing?
She
Like,
talks about, she's more of like
Vulnerability.
a vulnerability, a shame researcher.
well, yeah, but I feel like in her process, she's talked about, like, you just need to, like, the book, like, start journaling,
Yep.
but it's not gonna be perfect. There used to be
Yeah.
an SFD, a shitty first draft, that you just get out there and you realize that's what this is. So there's no expectations, there's no edits
Yeah.
on this. It's just the first draft,
Yeah.
and how freeing and fun that can be
Yeah.
to do that without the expectation that this is gonna be the final product.
Mhm.
And I think that experience, that sounds a lot like what was going
Especially
on
like
there.
school. Do you find a lot of the people that you attract, are they more like the students who are like, "Okay, I've done very well in a student role," or are they
Mm.
a mix of creators and like what's the
Yeah, I have such a fabulous, privilege of having, like, it's the whole spectrum. So I've got the extremely high achievers that didn't they say wouldn't even need to try to get straight A's, and then went to law school, and then went that career, and then realized, not for me. Like, easy. Life, success as far as those terms are concerned, easy. And then I've had so many people come to me, and I've heard so many stories around life was absolute chaos growing up, and I couldn't focus on school. I was just trying to help my family survive and started working at 13 years old to pay the bills because my mom was, skitching out on meth. Like, it's and somehow they both end up at the same place on a call with me saying, "I've got something within me
Yeah.
that I haven't shared yet, but I know I need to because I know it's gonna connect with somebody." And for both of them, they had this shifting moment where they say, "No matter where I came from, something shifted to make me go now, whoa, I have a new perspective, and I think other people should experience this as well.
Yeah.
Mm.
How do I share that?" So around that idea, that just opened me up around that idea of, like, academics and, like, how do they work and how do they process things? There's this sense of, like, yes, there's a lot of people who are like, "I just wanna get it right." I think
Yeah.
that's pretty much it. But I think that comes back to the vulnerability piece of because it's so you, you want to get it right because you do actually respect yourself. You do actually love the experience that you've had on this big blue floating ball and this mortal existence that you have, you love it enough to say, I want to share this with people.
Mhm.
And in that effort, I hope I do it justice.
Yeah.
So I think if we come back to this, that's another barrier that shows up, not just around vulnerability of like, oh, shoot, what can I share? What should I share? Do I talk about the abuse or the addictions or what? Does that matter? But then you get into the sense of like, I wanna do it justice. I
Yeah.
wanna do it
Yeah.
right. I wanna honor my story And as much as we say we lead with that, that actually becomes a barrier to having fun while telling your story because you're then trying to structure it, right?
Yeah. Yes.
I think, and I don't know if you feel like this, I think speaking and sharing your story is one of the most masterful things you can do because it does bring up a lot of shit.
Yeah.
It brings up all the things, and then to be seen in it and to be I don't know if you see that even maybe in your own journey or even working with people and their stories.
Yeah. Yeah. I I mean, the amount of times if I had a dollar for every time that somebody said this is like therapy in
Yeah.
my story arc sessions, um, I'd have a lot of dollars, let's say, because that is it. Yeah, because what do I do? Okay, this is where you are now. Well, let's go back. Where did that begin? Like, where's the first thought of that shows up for you? And of course, we go to childhood. And then what's happening in childhood? Well, there's this innocent version of you that then got distorted and then got stuck. There's a barrier that got in the way of that. Well, let's talk about that. Well, for some people, that's a lot to open up.
Mhm.
And then I think inherently, as you're saying, what I bring to that is a spirit of exploration around that,
Yeah.
where you may have what's that? Yeah, curiosity. Exactly. I let curiosity lead
Yeah.
because you look back at that, and I look back at my 14-year-old experience on that stage. I knew that that existed, that moment. But it didn't become meaningful for me until a coach brought me back to that and helped me see it through the lens of fear. And I realized, oh my goodness, that's when fear showed up around speaking.
Hmm.
That's it. So I had that story already in my life. I knew that that was there. I could have tapped into that experience, told people about that at any moment, easy. But then when this coach comes in, and in this case, when I come in and I look at your story for the first time with only curiosity and an effort to say, how are we going to share this and make an impact? I see your experiences that you have already decided are painful or hurtful or fearful or whatever it is that you have put on that. And I get to see it and say, huh, that is so empowering, isn't it? Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
That's so crazy how that showed up there, but it seemed like that was really born like 6 years earlier when your dad didn't compliment you. Does that make sense to you? And then light bulbs and connections are made, and then we find this theme that has been running all the way through, that it's not just a series of events, but it's this arc of transformation that is being formed. That's where the beauty is.
Yeah.
But if you're not willing to be curious in your own experiences, then yeah, you're gonna be up in your head and you're gonna think, I've already got
Yeah.
it. It's already set and it's not good enough. So why would I share it?
Yeah.
So what would you say to somebody if they are maybe they're not even like consciously aware that they're saying it, but there's this undertone of dismissing their story because they do feel maybe on a deeper level it's not good enough.
Yeah. The good news is it's you've already changed. So the real basics of storytelling, you want to be a better storyteller immediately, focus on the transformation more than the
Mhm.
details. Start with the transformation. Um, Harry Potter starts with a boy who is alone and will end with a boy who is loved, and love wins. That's it. That's okay. Now let's fill in the 7 books of that epic. So for you, for the person who's thinking my story's not good enough, I don't know what it is. You're thinking details. You're thinking list of events, and my list of events don't compare to Jenny's list of events. Gosh, she's been through so much, and I had it easy. But this is why I know this is true because I used to do this when I was a youth pastor, and I would have the same conversation with 12-year-olds that I'm having today with 62-year-olds. That you've already transformed. There's already been a shift in your life. Once we identify what that is, you step forward and go, "Oh my goodness, I did change. I did think that, but now I think this." And someone, something happened to help that move. There's a frickin' 3-part story. There it is. That's it. Talk about who you were, talk about what happened, talk about who you are. Fabulous. So I think for anybody listening that's complicating the issue and saying, like, my story's not good enough, the good news is you do have a story. The basics of storytelling is transformation, and you have transformed. So start there. Write that in your journal.
Yeah.
I've already transformed, and I am still transforming. And then see where your inner guide takes the rest of that to say, well, how did I transform? Who was I? Okay, who am I? Wow, what are the things, what are the moments that happened to get me here? And you're going to fill journal pages and pages and pages before you
Yeah.
know it.
And speaking of pages, that reminds me of your book because I think your book is
Oh,
such
what a segue.
right?
Nice.
Crushed
Braille.
it. Is I think a great guide in really starting to play in what we're talking about today. It's like tell us more about how people can use that as a good stepping stone.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate that. I mean, the hope was that it's a, it's a read on the plane kind of book. It's like 120 pages, and it's really just the basics of the story arc that I started with talking about earlier. And that's what it is. It's follows the exact same structure that I would teach anybody and coaches you through how to find and share your signature story. That big story that we're trying to find here and make it really small and palatable so that you could tell in 45 seconds as a podcast intro if you need to. And obviously all along the way I share all my own stories and use the same structure. I mean, I'm such a big believer in show that it works, and that's what it is. So I love that. I love any feedback that I get from that and on that. And some of my favorite things have been where people challenge. They're like, this part doesn't really make sense. Can you explain that? I'm like, yes, amazing. You're reading it. This is so good. And I made a mistake in my published book. That's so good. I love that so much because that's it. It's like I almost should have like made some spelling mistakes and typos in there just to prove this fact. Yeah, exactly. Did you really read it?
Yeah.
So I mean that's the joy of that is really just going at this and seeing it work so much for so many people and saying, okay, let's just throw that into a book. What would happen? And then I get pictures of people reading it like as their beach read when they're on vacation. What are you doing? What is this? Go read some Colleen Hoover or something. I don't know, but thank you. But like
It's amazing.
it's so good. So I just see that people are getting empowered and seeing the simple structure goes so far.
I think simplicity is mastery, and that's also where transformation happens. So I totally agree. I think there's so much that goes into making something simple. Um, I do have there's two things that I think it's like the macro and then the micro in terms of like I can see how this applies to an Instagram post. You don't know. I think often people are like, I have no idea how to I know for me, like, this was helpful for and I see the people that are working with you, and a lot of them are in our orbit as well, and it's really
Yeah.
cool to see how it shifts in, like, something as tangible as, an Instagram post, but then also something as big as how it also becomes the foundation of your brand. Like, it really can go, and I think they're both intertwined, but how have you seen that, like let's just play in that arena just for a little bit because I think
Yeah. Well, it's yeah. I mean, it's you can see it again. I'm so proud to watch you guys like build this brand that you have, and to go back and see that. Like, I can almost remember the day that we were like, "Wait a second, the key is fun. That's it. Lean on that." Then the talk was created, and it's the F word, and it's fun, and it just built from there, and everything got so much more simple for you,
Mhm.
and so then that's like foundation of a brand. For me, it's all clarity. So it's that thing that I started with when I was a kid. I'm clear I'm going to do this. It's the thing that I show up now, clear that this is my mission, and helping people find clarity at any moment. That's what I'm here to do.
Yeah.
when they feel confused. So that becomes this basis for how I show up and why I do what I do and what my messaging sounds like. It's all rooted in that word of clarity. And I do that through storytelling. So there's this, I think in both of those aspects where clarity, like my brand is not named Clarity, but your brand is where's the fun and like the fun experience. So your brand is literally like this end result from your story. And I have another client who her business called Thrive, and that came out of our work together. And her story was survive to thrive. And then she went and rebranded and built this brand name on that called Thrive Accounting. I mean, shout out to Stacy.
Shout out
So
Stacy.
there's this amazing ability that can actually become the identifying piece for
Yeah.
what you do. That's like foundational. That's where you realize that like, holy crap, yes, I want that to lead the way because everything that I do, every conversation is always going to lead to that. That's how I enter a room. That's how I leave the room. That's the podcast I'm on. It's always going to lead with, I hope people feel more clear at the end of this. Instagram posts feel a lot more complicated sometimes, but again, it carries that same simplicity where I sit here and I'm like, what the hell am I going to post today? What do I need to say? And anytime that I do that, I go, wait a second. I hear what's going. That's confusion showing up. I know you.
Yeah.
You
We
can
met at 14.
exactly. And so I just flick that off of my shoulder for a second and go, wait a second. I'm actually showing up clearly. Okay. Oh, that might make for a good post about when you feel confused. Remember your brand, remember your story, remember your transformation, and you'll be able to show up more clearly. So literally what I'm experiencing then turns into the post that I share that might be helpful or not. But it's always this effort that I'm always helping people move from there to here as I have authentically experienced and want to bring to you today. So it doesn't need to be complicated. It doesn't need to be, okay, now I share my 40-year experience in one Instagram post. It's continued in comments. Like, you don't need to do that. You could, but it'll just show up everywhere you are. If you're relying on those two words of transformation, you're always leading people through a story, and it just happens to be yours.
And like that resonates with me so much because when we worked with you, it was like we needed to find the theme of everything. And we were like, oh, we actually help people. It's called the fun experience, but we're helping people enjoy their experience, whether it's in life or it's in business or it's in both. And
Yep.
our mastermind is the embodiment of that. So, like, for instance, we've had people come into our mastermind who are like, I want to hit my next level of leadership. And we help them feel safe enough, like you helped us feel safe. We help them feel safe enough to step into that next version of themselves. Like it's all you just connected something so much for me. So I'm
I love that.
totally had you on the podcast. Thank you for my therapy session.
She literally just got a notebook and started writing in her own
I love this.
podcast.
You two got it from here. I'm just gonna write notes from now on.
She's going in trance mode. It's this like you just zone in. There's I mean, the exciting thing about that, like you're getting clearly a download.
Yeah.
And what I just heard is like there's always this like we help people go to this place. We help them go to here. We help them feel safe. We help them enjoy their experience. Here's the key is when you're going to lead with that, then you just make sure
Yeah.
that you have the other side of that.
Yeah.
What are the words if they don't feel safe? What if they feel safe with you? That's where you're, well, what are they experiencing? They're experiencing this lack of safety. They're experiencing it's dangerous out here, folks. If they're not enjoying their experience, what is it? It's so damn serious. Why are we all so like heavy here when life is light? So then, right? So you're talking and you're zoning on this where I really want to narrow on this. It's so important because this is where a lot of people hang out. They love to talk about the end of the story.
Yeah.
But the real connection with the audience is going to be when you also identify the beginning, where they're at now, and you connect with that and say, I get it.
Yeah.
You're confused? Gosh, do I ever get that? I've lived in confusion my entire life. Yes, I show up clearly now, but it takes work and it always goes through my story.
Okay, so if we were to workshop this real quick,
Yeah, baby.
And then we'll wrap it up. Well, I know we're getting close.
what's on my mind, it's like it is really at a deeper level. It's from like fear to fun. And the fear shows up in, and I don't even think they would necessarily associate with that, but it is like the unconscious of I'm taking myself too serious. I'm doing things that I feel like I should be doing. I'm I'm really not doing things that in for me to enjoy my experience. And it's also that fear, I think, of allowing it to be fun. We don't allow it to be fun. We don't allow it to be easy. We make it way fucking harder than it needs to be because we're in fear. We need to control. We don't want to relinquish control. We're in the nitty-gritty. We can see the vision, but yet it takes so much courage and trust and embodiment to then actually walk that path. So is that on the right track? Does that
Oh,
make
yeah.
sense?
You are just on fire. I love this. And I think that, so you've got this really clear from and to there, from fear to fun. I mean, oh gosh, trademark that. Let's run with that because
Okay, fear
there's
to fun.
there's
Put that
something.
in your notes.
I am.
Because what that also taps back into the very beginning of this, where I was like, have more fun with your story. Well, what's keeping people? They're staying up in their head. They're afraid. We said those exact words. They're
Mhm.
afraid that they're going to be seen too much. They're afraid they're not going to say the right thing. So if you're living in this fear over what will happen, oh, geez, I read a quote earlier that was, fear is always about a future circumstance that we can't control.
Mhm.
And fear is always attached to the future.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, that just blew my mind. Needed to share that. But here we are from fear to fun because, yeah, so you're saying there's people stuck here and there's people here. And the difference is that we're trapped in fear, but then we allow ourselves to have fun. So now you get to fill in the blank with what's that transformation? What does it require? Um, to what do you need to do to shift from fear to fun? And I think everything that you've talked about today and everything that I know about you guys is that happens best within community,
Yeah.
within a safe space. As you said with Brene, as you said with you guys, with your experiences, it's if you are living in fear, you're likely alone. You're doing this on your own. But when you get in a community that sees you, that creates safety, that encourages you, you start to allow yourself to think bigger, freer, more expansive, more curiously, and then you find that you are actually living a life full of fun.
Yeah.
And isn't that what we're here for?
Yeah.
Ah.
Oh, so good.
That is so good.
Okay.
Alex, what are ways people can work with you?
Yeah, I mean, the main thing right now is one-on-one coaching. That's where I love that, and that is, let's call it the therapy session. That's where we do the work and
Yeah.
really move you through to, you might be starting with, I've got a keynote speech coming up, or I want to start writing a book or launch a podcast, or I'm just confused in my social media presence. Let's start there. Start with the story and then build out the messaging from there. And that's the process. That's how I work. So that's the main thing. There's other things in the works,
Yeah.
group coaching or something else coming up. We'll see, but stay tuned and stay in touch. Just connect with me on Instagram. That's the best way. At Street Says, and send me a DM. Say that you like this message, something stood out, anything at all. I'm here for it. It's always me on there.
Yeah.
And we'll ensure to include that, your book link, all the things in the show
Totally.
notes as well. If you were to leave with sharing one thing from your heart to
The audience.
the audience's heart, what would you want to share?
Anything that hasn't been said already. I do. I'll come back to my mom, my sweet mama. She just a few days before she passed. Yeah, I asked her, why do you do this? Why you've been acting for your entire life for 40 plus years? Why do this? And I touched on it earlier, but I remember she specifically said it's because we give a gift. When I'm on stage and I'm putting on that show, I am giving a gift to that audience because they came in thinking something, And while I make them laugh or I make them cry or whatever, they're going to leave feeling something else and take that into their home where I may never see them again. That's why I do this, because it's the gift, she said, of entertainment. I would say it's the gift of storytelling that we are sharing with people. And that's what it's about. So thanks, Margaret, for that wisdom and for you wondering why am I doing this at any given moment. Remember, we're giving gifts out.
Amazing. Alex, thank you so much for being here.
For
It's such a pleasure.
literally everything. Like,
Yes.
you have been such a big part of our life, as you can tell from this episode. It's like we
Yeah.
so believe in the work
Everything you're doing.
that you do and really experiencing it firsthand. And like, honestly, if you're listening, you're like, I'm a little curious, like, reach out to Alex, reach out to us. We will definitely share even more of our experience. I
Yes.
think what you do is so needed in this world.
Mhm.
I love it. I'm so grateful for you too. And it's just so exciting because of all the work that we've done so far. It still feels like we're just getting started.
I know. How
Like,
exciting.
what a cool thing.
Thanks for listening to WTF. Where's the fun?
We're Andrea and Mel, and we're so excited to be on this journey with you to see how fun it can get.
If today's episode brought a little bit more fun into your world, be sure to subscribe, share with a friend, and leave us a review.
And remember, life and business is so much better when you're following the fun. So let's have some fun.